President Trump's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, has been sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison. This came as a surprise to many, considering prosecutors recommended close to 25 years.
Khalif Browner was arrested at 16, never convicted of a crime, never had a trial, but spent more than 3 years in one of the most violent jails in the country.
Paul Manafort, the former Trump campaign manager who faced as many as 24 years in prison after being convicted of tax and bank fraud, was sentenced to 47 months. Meanwhile, Khalif Browner was 16 years old when he was imprisoned at Rikers Island jail complex for 3 years without bail and without ever facing trial, being accused of stealing a backpack, which he didn't. But anyway, back to Paul. He was found guilty on 8 of the 18 charges he faced: 2 counts of bank fraud, 5 counts of tax fraud, and 1 count of failing to declare a foreign bank account. But meanwhile, Crystal Mason, a black woman from Texas, is currently behind bars, serving 5 years. That's a whole year more than Manafort for mistakenly casting a provisional vote. Crystal voted while on parole, unaware that under Texas's strict electoral laws, she was ineligible due to a prior conviction. And so, the judge saw no lenience in this case and gave her 5 years. But let's go back to Paul again, shall we? Prosecutors went on to describe how he assembled a wardrobe that included a $15,000 ostrich leather jacket and more than $1 million worth of suits, and argued that he had committed the crimes not out of necessity or hardship, but pure greed, all of which the judge looked kindly upon, opting to offer him a slap on the wrist in comparison to what the sentencing guidelines for his crimes suggest. Meanwhile, back in 2018, that very same judge sentenced a man by the name of Frederick Turner to a mandatory minimum of 40 years in prison for dealing methamphetamine, stating, "I chafe a bit at that, but I follow the law. If I thought I was blatantly immoral, I'd have to resign. It's wrong, but not immoral." And the more you scratch beneath the surface, the more discrepancies like these you will find that show that there are 2 justice systems. One where a man who made millions undermining democracy gets a slap on the wrist, and another where people, more often than not low-income people of color, are dragged across the coals and hit with the book for far less serious charges. And let me be clear on this, don't get it twisted. I am not advocating for cruel and unusual sentences. I have long advocated for the opposite, for justice reform that focuses on more rehabilitation than days spent behind bars. But I want that for everyone. If 47 months is the appropriate sentence for Paul Manafort's crimes, then great. I am not advocating for stricter sentencing for him, but merely trying to shed light on the discrepancies between his treatment at the hands of the justice system and the treatment faced by those who don't have the same skin complexion or checkbook. What is egregious and unjust are the much harsher sentences millions of Americans are subjected to for equal or lesser crimes, even including sentences handed down by the same judge who ruled in Manafort's case. If you haven't noticed, compassion in the nation's courtrooms seems to be more and more present the whiter and richer one is. I'd love to hear what you think on this. Come over to my Instagram at Maxwell. Support independent media here.